Hello and welcome everyone to episode 48 of DigiTales. My name is Faizan Syed, founder and CEO of East River. And today I have someone who's going to talk about a very hot topic, the energy crisis in Pakistan. Danish Iqbal AliMohammed is the chairman of Metro Power Group and the chairman of GulAhmed Energy. In his group, he manages nearly 400 megawatts of energy, most of which comes from wind energy. He's also been the chairman of the Pakistan Wind Association. How are you today, Danish?
I'm good. How are you, Faizan?
Danish, we were having this great conversation a couple of months ago about the energy crisis in Pakistan, and I loved how you summarized it in such layman terms as to what's going on. Can you kind of walk me through and walk us through in simple sort of understanding why does Pakistan have such a major energy problem when we have one of the best wind corridors in the world? We have shale gas, we have natural gas, and there's oil reserves under our country as well.
Thanks, Faizan. So it's a very long conversation on this. It can take days, but I can be quick on this. So to be very quick on this, why do we have this energy crisis? Because there are two very important reasons. One is that we have lack of sustainable and reliable. The second is reliable energy. So sustainable means what? Sustainable means cost. Our
Mhm.
our our energy costs are not sustainable to us. The amount of energy we use, we don't have enough affordable power to sustain that cost. Because
Mhm.
we've been in expense, we use expensive means like imported coal, RLNG, oil, and we have not gone towards so much on the reliable energy, which is like wind, solar, hydropower. I mean, we have hydropower, but we don't have enough as what we should be having. We have
Why haven't we
focused.
gone towards wind? You've done a lot of wind projects. Why not get into that on a much bigger scale?
So basically, wind. We when we got in, it was the most one of the most difficult tasks to convince the government why wind is more useful in the for the future and it's more sustainable. We It took us about 6 7 years to convince the government to get tariffs. What happens is it's very much linked to politics. So what happens is whenever new government comes, they want quick fix. So we saw in 2010, to the 8 to 12 government, they wanted quick fix. They went into imported RLNG, which I have imported fuel power plants. Then we went into the 2013. They put some wind energy, but they put more on the gas side because there was also a political side to it that is more that could be located more in the Punjab side. So these are all these reasons why wind has not become such big energy resource here, because mostly all the wind resource is in Sindh. So it actually benefits one province, and that's why I think the other governments have not promoted it that much.
So politics actually has affected energy distribution, energy creation in this country, is what you're saying.
Yes, that is exactly
And
what I'm saying.
and so if we did pursue, let's say, a wind policy, you've actually done a lot of wind projects. What is it? Close to 260 megawatts of wind energy. Do we really have a lot of people talk about our wind corridor being amazing and having the potential to solve the country's energy crisis? Is that true?
Yeah, so we have very good wind resource. So our wind corridor has about 7 to 8 meters per second wind speeds, which is called class 2 and class 3 winds, which is considered very good in terms of wind potential. The other is class 1, which is over 10 meters per second, which is usually offshore. So for onshore, we have one of the best energy areas for wind. And we can up I mean how we saw this was that when we did a wind study, the government did introduce a policy, and we saw the area that behind us is Rajasthan. And Rajasthan is right now, I think, about 17,000 megawatts. Only Rajasthan has 17,000 megawatts. This is not
17,000, just
2,000.
one part of
What
India,
what
right next to Sindh.
right behind Sindh. It's right behind Sindh. So this wind corridor just goes all the way. So this is when the policy came that we have so much potential. It's all crossing through this Gharo,
Right.
Jampi, and we ourselves, if we start from Gharo and Jampir and go all the way to Umarkot, you can put about 20 to 30,000 megawatts. That's how much
Wow.
land we have to actually harness this wind energy.
How much total wind energy are we producing in Pakistan today?
Right now, 1,800 megawatts.
So Rajasthan is doing 17,000, which is more like literally almost 10 times what the entire country of Pakistan is doing.
Yes, unfortunately.
Why is that? Because their policy, they were better off on policy, they were long-term thinkers. What was the difference on the other side of the border?
So their political system is different. They are into the states run separately, independently. So they run their own energy policies. Here we have a federal policy. So this is where it's limited. So let's say if Sindh was allowed to make their own energy, sell their own energy, then we could have achieved whatever wind energy we wanted. But because we have a federal policy, we are thinking no, we want to produce more hydro, more RLNG, and then Punjab and this. So that sort of creates which is the preferred choice. So this is why we've lagged behind actually.
And is wind energy significantly more expensive than the forms of energy that we're getting in Pakistan, whether it's RLNG, whether it's your traditional furnace, or even solar for the matter of fact, right? Is wind more expensive?
So wind is obviously when we started, wind was very expensive because those days was a 2008 to 12 was a recession time. So the prices of fuels, they were very expensive. So it was difficult. It was expensive. As the time after 2013, it has started going down, down, down. So we started with 13 cents. Some of the project, not my project, but one of the first project was FFC, which was 16 cents. So from now, our last project, which we have developed, GulAhmed Electric and Metro Wind Power, which is the 60 megawatt, is at 4.6 cents, which is the cheapest wind energy anywhere in the world right now. In terms of, I mean, we have political risk, we have financial risk, we have to
Right,
take all
of
that
course.
into consider financing costs. So we are one of the cheapest, and there's solar, which is about 3.5 cents compared to the RLNG cost, which is now, if you consider it in rupees, we are about 8 rupees. They are about 45 rupees in terms of today's fuel price. Oil
So you're
projects
saying
are
wind is 5 times cheaper than the
right now.
RLNG projects right now.
Right now, yes.
Wouldn't it make complete sense? And we've got this major currency crisis that's taking place with the dollar hovering around 240. Doesn't it make complete sense to just put politics aside and set up a wind corridor and be done with this energy shortage once and for all?
It's a plunge, right? So if I'm in the government, I would think, okay, should I do it now at this price or should I wait? Let the prices come down, because right now, if this this economic crisis, what you won't get it for 4 cents, because right now all the raw materials are getting expensive, transportation is expensive. We signed these contracts 2 years ago, so we got a very good price when all the oil prices were low. Now if I'm going to go, it be 6 cents. So now if the government comes back to me and says, okay, put it up, I cannot give 4 cents. But still, whatever the crises are, every time there is, at every stage, this should not be stopped, because you cannot put 15,000 megawatts in one go. You'll have to put it 1,000 every year. This is how you will harness the potential, and you'll bring in more investors. The pool will open up. You will get a lot of international investors. If you just say, okay, one guy go and do 400 megawatts, it'll be a political embarrassment, because why did you give it to one project? So you have to have proper competitive bidding, open it up, let the market decide the price. What we do, we have a very old tariff structure, which we would say, okay, this is the price. I think you have to bid below that. Now, if the market doesn't decide what the price is, and you say, I want the energy at this, it is not possible to get so much investment. So I would suggest to the ministers and the government that let the market be open, let them decide the price. It's a pure supply and demand. Whatever right now is available, you will get at the best price. But if you give a benchmark and say, come below this, it might not be feasible.
Why
And
do they set it up that way? Why is it not an open market thing the way you're saying it?
well, they've been trying. They can't because they take so long to determine a price. Every time they come back, the price changes.
Mm.
So then they just say it's too much of a difficult proposition for them to decide on a price. So in the worldwide, what I mean, these are auctions are happening all across the world. So what they do is they have a computerized auction. So let's say I'm sitting here on the computer, I will put in a price, I will have 5 minutes. If somebody bids me below that 5 minutes, and then if not, I'll get that, and that's it. So if nobody bids, I get that price. So these are auctions which are happening all across the world. So it's not something but
So
we
then why aren't we subscribing to these auctions? What's holding us back as a country, as a government?
we are just waiting right now for the next government to come. They will decide when and what, how
What
many
about the
megawatts.
previous government or the one before
Previous
that?
government did 600 megawatts of wind. That was it. They did decide. They brought up this new policy. The previous government did bring that we only going to be renewables for the next 10 years. No more imported
Mhm.
fuel. So that has changed. But now that part took 2 years to come in, but it was never implemented. So now we are
Mm.
waiting for that implementation. But right now they're also thinking. Now new thoughts come. Okay, we should have more local coal. So they're also thinking like that. Okay, that's fine, local coal, but we think the renewables should not be stopped. It should keep going because this is where your average cost basket price will come down. So you have, let's say, you have fuel RLNG, which is your load. Then you have
Mhm.
the coal. That's fine, but if you have a 8 9 rupees wind and solar, if you average that price, you can be about 20 rupees, right? But right now
Mhm.
your average is 35 30 rupees because of the fuel prices. So it doesn't go that everybody will get the cheapest, but the basket will go slowly it'll get cheaper and cheaper. So
And this
more.
gets passed on to the end consumer as well,
Yeah,
right? The retail consumer, the industrial consumer, they'll
yeah.
see
So
cheaper electricity.
yeah, so the more renewable, it's like this, more renewable, the prices will be going down. This is how it is.
And so, what is the right now? What is the total energy requirement of Pakistan today?
Pakistan has a capacity of about 37,000 megawatts.
Mhm.
In the summer months, we go up to 31,000 requirement. And in the winter months, we're about 11 on 10,000 megawatts. So it depends on the season. So in the winters, everybody, no ACs are being used, right? So
Right,
and the summers, all the ACs start coming on,
right.
and the working hours are also very different in summer and winter. So these are the requirements.
So, if there's 36,000 of installed capacity and 31,000 is the consumption in summer, why is there load shedding? You still have 5,000 megawatts of spare capacity left, right?
So some of the plants are so old, 30 years old, that they are not reliable enough to run. They go they're not the efficiency is so bad that every oil you use, you get least amount of energy. So you're actually wasting expensive oil on it. So that's why they only run it for very like emergency requirements. Secondly, some on maintenance right now. Some get there's you need some spare capacity. Secondly, we thirdly right now the oil plants, half of them are running, most of them are running because they're cheaper, but the RLNG plants are shut. Although we have 5,000 megawatts of RLNG, but we can't run them because we can't afford the gas.
It's unbelievable. We just completely created this mess on our own, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Because the policies are not long term, right? So if we started
Mm.
wind energy in 2012, we should have continued this and made about 5 6,000 megawatts of wind right now. What that would have done, it would have created a lot of employment. A lot of companies would have come in, made we would have transferred technology. We would open up the investment. That would have brought a lot of foreign direct investment. Like our projects already, we have foreign companies as investors in it. They came in at, let's say, in 2015 or sorry 2013, they came in, and at that time the dollar was 100 rupees. Now it's 240. So they've lost half of their investment, more than half of the investment in dollar already.
Hmm.
and they have not got their full returns yet. So this is why it was. If this would have been, if we would have saved ourselves in the energy crisis, we would have sustained the dollar USD also. Although we are giving dollar tariffs, but the energy crisis would not have been so big that we would have to import so much RLNG. We could have used a lot of wind, we could have a lot of solar. That has least amount of pressure on your foreign currency if you use indigenous resources, which is renewable, wind and solar.
One of the other sort of concerns that keeps getting raised that I hear about is that the government gave out fixed rates of return. I think it was 17% in the dollar, that
Hmm.
actually made these projects very unviable. I mean, very viable for obviously the investors, but unviable for the government. Can you walk me through sort of what that is about, this rate of return that everyone seems to talk about?
So, when a country introduces a new technology, you need people to take in risk. It's a very big. So let's say we are the first people doing is, we don't, who would want to take that risk, that if it's not only the technology risk, it's the country risk, it's a government, will they be able to transmit the energy, distribute the energy, all that
Right.
risk, and you have to take the bank's risk. So who would take that plunge? So the first few projects always want higher return because and they're opening up for everybody to come in. That's what happened. So first 5 6 projects got a very high return, 7 projects. Then the second phase came in with 30% less tariff. So one was, so first project, you're right, was 16%, then was 14%, then was
And these are dollar
15%.
returns.
These are dollar ROE returns.
Right.
So it's not IRR, it's ROE. So
So return on equity.
we can't invest about 100% equity or 50%. We can only invest 20 to 30%. Before it was 25%. Now it's 20%.
So
So
that
it's
means,
not
let's say
that.
if this is $100 project, you're putting in $20, you
Yes.
will get 16% on the $20 that you put in.
Yes.
So you'll get $3.20 every year for setting up that project.
Yes. But that was only one project. Our project is not that price.
Got it. And so these are the first 5 or 6 projects in phase one. Then phase
Yes.
two, that return went down, and then and what's the return
Phase
at
two.
today?
So the first one was 17%, then was 15%. Now it's 14%
Now it's 14% on your equity,
on your equity. Yes.
which is in dollars.
Which is in dollars.
So that's not a
But
bad deal.
actually, it's on the optics side as dollars, but it's not actually dollars, because let's say I bill the CPP, the government, which they will pay me after 7 months, and the rupee is devalued. So actually, I'm getting paid the money at my billing was, let's say, at 150 rupees, but I'm getting paid at 250 rupees. So all that return is just wiped out by
Hmm.
delaying the payments. So if we would have got the payment monthly, and I would say, okay, I've used this money at buy a dollar or invested at that rate, then I would say the return on dollars is that. Right now, we are about, actually, on the economic side, we are about 4 to 5% dollar return.
But if you're getting paid 5, 6 months later, you're getting paid in dollars, right? Or you're getting paid in
No, we
rupees?
get paid in rupees. We get paid in
You
rupees.
get paid in rupees, got it. And as the dollar devalues, you lose out on that return. But that's only
Yeah.
recently. I mean, the dollar was fairly stable, I'd say, for a long period over the last 10 years. It's just, I'd say, in the last year, we've seen this kind of instability. So it was a good investment for a fairly long time.
It was decent investment, but what happens is that, if you get paid late, you're supposed to get paid interest on it, right?
Right.
But we don't get paid interest also.
Hmm.
So this so I lose that. Let's say I wanted to buy
So
a
that becomes
phone.
your opportunity cost in this
So
case.
yes, so if I wanted to buy a phone of $100, which is, well, 1,000 rupees,
Right.
right? And now when I'm going to buy the phone, it's $150, and it's 20,000 rupees. So I mean, if you do the maths, I think we make around 5%. But don't quote me on this. Don't do all this.
So, okay, I'll switch gears. I'll ask you another question. You were talking earlier about Rajasthan's example, right? You said 17,000 megawatts in one desert in India, right? Similar desert climate conditions in Pakistan would require devolution of a specific ministry to be devolved down to the province level, which is what the case is in India. Why doesn't that happen in Pakistan? You have the 18th Amendment, they devolve pretty much everything: education, health. Why not devolve energy?
So government has been trying to do this for many, many years, but everybody wants to take the credit for energy, all the governments. So the 18th Amendment is there. I think why it's been stopped is for same reason is that we have a law which only allows NTDC to make the grids to evacuate the province to province grid 220 kilowatt. That that law in 2015 was that private transmission was allowed, but so far only one government to government project has come which is doing the transmission. If they allow us to build transmission lines, which they
Mhm.
are saying, but they never give us the right of way or how to do it. They say, okay, you
Mhm.
can start apply. I've applied in 2015 to make a transmission line.
Seven
I still
years.
haven't,
Wow.
and I still haven't got a reply. He said, "Oh,
Right.
we'll let you know which sites to do. Oh, our people can do this site, but they never do it." So if they would allow us to do transmission lines, so right now the CTCBM which NEPRA is introducing is very good, which means over 1 megawatt. Let's say you have an industry, I can have a site in Jampir or Tata somewhere, and I can make 10 megawatts, and I can give you directly through the grid directly to your company. So they've allowed that, but
So you can skip
still,
all the red tape.
yeah, you can skip all the. You just do a direct contract. But now we are stuck on that because the transmission network is saying we want, let's say, 30% of that,
Mhm.
which is then not affordable. So if they reduce, the transmission companies reduce their charges, we can then, I think this can be very successful. Right now we are stuck on that. There's another problem is, what if the wind doesn't there's no wind, then who provides that energy that time when the wind is not blowing? So
Right.
then you say, okay, then I need base load. So that base load price is high. So now but end of the day, you're still going to be cheaper than 40 rupees, because you'll have 7 rupees there, 40 rupees of base load. So your average prices will be much lower than what we are. So we feel it's going to be about 30 to 40% reduction in price if this policy of CTCBM is implemented, and the companies like KE and all the transmission networks allow
Mhm.
us to do this selling, direct selling.
Interesting. I mean, this sounds really frustrating for any businessman, entrepreneur, that you're spending years writing letters for approvals, waiting for policy changes. I mean, just right now, the examples you've given me, I mean, it's basically 5 years of just waiting before anything material happens, is what it sounds like in any of these projects you've talked about.
Exactly.
How is that sustainable? How is that good business? I mean, the opportunity cost of 5 years. I mean, time is something you cannot replace. Why would anyone take interest in this?
So when you get into it, you don't think it'll take 5 years. You think it'll take 2 years, 1 year. But then it just, but once you start burning cash, then you started burning cash. Now, if you just wrap it up, okay, I'm not spending any more on this time waste on this, then you have actually thrown that cash out. So what we do is, our group is, we have our projects running, so we don't need to invest. We are not a new investor, so for us it can keep going. We can use our other companies to pay for the development side and stuff. But for a new guy coming in, it's very difficult, because he's just waiting and waiting and waiting, and there's no generation right now. And we don't know. It's like you don't know if you're going to get that final tariff or final approval from the ministry to actually sign the agreement. This is where the if the AEDB board will approve it or not. On
So you
2019,
burn all this cash and all this time, and you're saying at the end you don't even know if you'll get approval.
yeah,
Why would what this just sounds like the worst business in the world? Like, I mean, where there's no clear certainty, governments are changing, you're burning through cash, and you don't know if you're going to get approval at the end.
yeah, this is how it goes. So I'll tell you a very example. In 2019, we were sitting and the World Bank president was here with the prime minister, and the AEDB board was saying, we're not going to approve it. We're not going to approve it. And the World Bank president had to call the prime minister, say, if you don't allow these 6 projects, I will we will not fund you. This is a fact. That and and the prime minister wanted to do it, but the bureaucracy didn't want it, right?
Wow.
So there are different reasons. They don't understand what they're doing. I'm sorry to say, the ministers here are not educated enough to understand simple supply and demand of power.
Right.
If you're going to have reliable, sustainable power, you everything will just work. It's a commodity, right?
Correct.
So
It powers the nation, you know?
yeah, without power, you can't do anything. It's impossible. You can't even charge your phone. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very simple process. But I'm not just saying it's only in Pakistan. It's like
That's what I was
okay.
going to ask. Is this problem applicable to other countries too, or is it just at its worst in Pakistan?
Well, Pakistan had this tariff issue, which was time consuming. But let's say an auction. I'm not just blaming Pakistan. So let's say if an auction comes in India, you're putting it now for me to do a feasibility, address get the site. Let's say I will buy the site once I win the auction, right? So I can't invest in that site, but I have to make sure I have all the agreements, the price is locked before I put that price in the auction. So
Right.
you do take that risk. You will take a little bit of, you will burn the cash, but you might not win the auction because somebody might bid you lower. So
Makes
that's the
sense.
competitiveness. But if you are sure that you are bidding for the right price, then you will get the project because you know what the prices are. So the experts do. They do a lot of work in this. They know what the prices are, and you have to also foresee that by the time you're starting construction of that
Hmm.
project, what are the prices? Let's say I signed a project at 5 rupees, and the prices of fuel went up. The supply, I mean the shipping cost went up. Let's say it did happen right now in COVID
Correct.
times,
With
right?
COVID, yeah.
So the shipping cost went 5 times, right? 2,000 to 15,000, $14,000 per container. So these are things you can't expect, right?
And
So
so when you see political instability like the one we're seeing in Pakistan today, it actually affects your forecasting, your demand planning, your budgeting, and it completely throws it out of whack, especially for such big projects that take 6 years of constant cash burn.
yeah, it is challenging, and that's why 30 or 40 people will start the pain. They'll get the LOIs. Only 10 will succeed in the end.
So, wow, this sounds like a really difficult space to be in. I thought the startup space and the e-commerce space were challenging, but this just is at a different level. If I was to ask you, and I'm going to start winding up here because I've taken up too much of your time, but if I was to ask you, if you were given a clean slate to design the energy solution for this country today, right now, given our demands for the next 5, 10 years, what would your energy solution be for this country? What would your energy mix look like? How would you create energy for this country that would drive this country for the next 50 years?
So the energy mix, obviously, we have to invest in newer technologies. So right now, uh, would be that you go into wind, solar. Solar is the best option right now. Wind itself has more maintenance, right? Because this is more moving parts. Solar
Mhm.
is the best and the cheapest. I would go 60% solar right out. I would tell every house, I would actually subsidize them not to buy energy from me. So I
Oh,
will say,
wow.
if
Okay.
you don't buy, you put it on your house. Don't buy it from me. I will actually subsidize. I'll give them a discount on it because that would reduce the circular debt, and I can then pay off my existing people, right, where I'm getting the energy, and let them all be independent. I would tell the buildings to put their solar films on it. I would ask industries. I would tell anybody and everybody, just put solar. Make your microgrid so all the villages, one village can make a solar farm, and then supply to 4 5 villages. These microgrids, those
Hmm.
should be implemented, because by making these large grids, you have transmission losses, you have from here to here, and
Got it.
there's not efficient transmission. So I would focus on solar and microgrids. These were, I think, that could solve the solution, and forget about what is burnt and what the debt is. You just do not increase the circular debt. That should be target. So if as I said, if the building next to me starts putting, they use less energy from me,
Mhm.
I would give that whatever energy I have, I would give it to people who need it more, right? Where I'm already transmitting. But I would not try to make new grids, new big transmission lines. I would
Because
say
of the transmission
every
losses.
yeah, I would say everybody, let's say in Sindh, definitely you have a lot of solar potential. You could do it. Southern Punjab has a lot of it. Balochistan has a lot of it. So every province, mashallah, in Pakistan has some energy resource. So Sindh has wind and solar. Solar, Southern Punjab has lots, is the best solar. You know, where the
Hmm.
area where the Qaeda Azam solar park was made, uh, Bawalpur, near the Bawalpur area. In Quetta, above Quetta and below Quetta, that area is phenomenal for solar. That's the best solar area in Pakistan, better than Southern Punjab.
Hmm.
In the north, we have hydropowers. So every province has the potential for solar.
So
And
you do
Pakistan,
60% solar because of that, because there's so much solar available. And the remaining 40%, how would you mix it?
I would have a mix of RLNG and coal. So you need coal and RLNG together, because coal, I would do it because coal is indigenous. So we have our own coal and we
Hmm.
have our minings there. So our mines are already started, and we should be able to use that. And I mean, I am an environmentalist, but right now our CO2 emissions are nowhere near where the world is. So we are actually at the lowest. So because we only have about what I think 1,000 megawatts of coal operational, or
Right.
600, actually 600. So it means we are nowhere near the height of it, where China or US or India
Right.
is, right? So I would go indigenous coal, and we already have RLNG installed, so we don't need to install more RLNG. Just use those plants, use the put up new coal plants, put up new solar plants, new wind plants. That's it. I would think that's the only way.
And I think that's a good solution. 60% solar for a country whose climate is dependent on the sun. It's a warm climate. I think that that is a good solution. Danish, thank you so much for the time, for the detailed assessment and the analysis. I mean, you are an expert on the subject, and it was a really great conversation. And I hope that people can take away from this and learn as to why we are stuck where we are, and maybe there are some solutions that can come out of this. Thanks again for your time, Danish.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, Faizan. See you
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you.
Take
And thank
care.
you everyone for tuning in. Stay tuned for more episodes next week. Bye bye.